It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. It's midnight here in Jerusalem, marking the second anniversary of the October the 7th attacks. More than 1,000 people were killed and hundreds kidnapped in the surprise attack on Israel led by Hamas. The attack prompted an ongoing conflict in Gaza in which thousands of people have lost their lives. As President Trump says he expects renewed ceasefire talks to result in a deal soon, we examine the chance for peace and speak to those on both sides in Israel and in Gaza about the devastating impact of this conflict.
These are the two beds, and this is hurting the heart to see that that is what is left from a couple that's been living together for over 60 years.
October 7 was just one day, but for us, it has felt like living through hundreds of October 7s.
Also ahead on Sky News at 10 tonight, the funeral takes place of one of the victims of the Manchester synagogue attack. As a member of the congregation tells Sky News, he thought they were all going to die.
And I was screaming at them, "We're under attack, we're under attack." And I could hear him banging on the doors, trying to get in, threatening to kill everyone.
An exclusive Sky News poll shows half the Tory membership want Kemi Badenoch gone as leader. And the Queen leads tributes to the author Dame Jilly Cooper, who has died at the age of 88. Plus, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight.
Good evening from Jerusalem, where it's just after midnight on the 7th of October, marking the second anniversary of the deadliest attack in Israel's history. Hamas-led militants killed 1,200 people and abducted 251 others in the attack on Israel in 2023. It prompted an Israeli offensive in Gaza in which more than 67,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Today, delegations from Hamas and Israel began indirect talks in Egypt to discuss bringing the war to an end in line with President Trump's peace plan. He said tonight that he expects a deal to be agreed soon. We'll have more on that in a moment. But first, our Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons has been speaking to people in Israel and in Gaza about the effect of this conflict and their hopes for the future.
Oded Lifshitz loved his family, his home and his piano. But then came October the 7th, when he was taken. His home was burnt and his family was torn apart, the day when everything changed.
The whole kibbutz is waking up every morning to the 7th of October. This is Oded Lifshitz's house. My father-in-law's house.
For Rita Lifshitz, the memories still ring so loudly. Her beloved father-in-law, Oded, lived here on Kibbutz Nir Oz. He was taken hostage on October 7th and held in Gaza, the land you can see from his window. This small kibbutz was overrun. More than 500 fighters came here. Oded and his wife, Yocheved, hid in their bomb shelter.
Our bomb shelter rooms are made for rockets, not for terror. They shot. He's holding the handle because there is no lock. You're holding the handle to one side. Hamas is trying to open it to the other side. These are the two beds, and this is hurting the heart to see that that is what is left from a couple that's been living together for over 60 years.
Yocheved was released after 16 days. Oded's body was returned earlier this year. More than a quarter of the people in this kibbutz were either killed or taken hostage. Rita was out of the kibbutz when the attackers arrived. When she came home, she was met by devastation. This is her best friend's home. Itzhak was shot, taken hostage, and later died. At the back of the home, the strong room where Itzhak took shelter. His blood is still on the floor and on the walls. Time is standing still here. The people in this kibbutz lived in the shadow of Gaza. It is there, always on the horizon. This is the view going the other way. The tents are in Gaza, the chimneys are in Israel. Across Gaza, more than 67,000 people have been killed since the October 7th attacks. A UN commission has described the war as a genocide. Saba used to live just over the border from Rita's kibbutz, but she's had to move 13 times since the war began. Saba once lived in a grand house with the trappings of wealth and success. But the last time she saw her home, it had just been bombed.
Personally, I long to go back to the ruins of my house, to sit among the rubble, simply to be there. Even that would be better than this life. At least then I might find a little peace.
But more recently came news. Her home had been targeted once more, and since these photos were taken, it's been targeted again.
Just imagine losing your home. When they told me what had happened to mine, I spent nearly 10 days doing nothing but crying. It truly feels like your very soul is torn away when you lose your home. Your spirit leaves you.
For Saba, this war is not just about what happened on October the 7th, not even about Hamas. It's about generations of struggle and anger, about feeling that Israel is oppressing the Palestinian people.
We are exhausted, broken by what has been done to us. October 7 was just one day, but for us it has felt like living through hundreds of October 7ths.
In wars, people suffer, not just those who are killed and injured, but those who shoulder the burden of misery. In Gaza and in Israel, the scars caused by October the 7th run deep, and who knows if they will ever truly heal.
And our Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons is here with me now. And Adam, we are going to talk about peace talks in a moment, the ones that are taking place in Egypt. But we know in the last half an hour or so, President Trump has been speaking. Let's just take a listen.
I think we're going to have it soon. I think we're going to have a deal. It's a hard thing for me to say that when for years and years they've been trying to have a deal with Gaza. But, literally for centuries, okay, if you really think about it. But we're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And I think Hamas now has been, all I can say is they've been fine. They've been fine. I hope it's going to continue that way. I think it will. I really think we're going to have a deal. We have a really good chance of making a deal.
That was Donald Trump speaking in the last half an hour or so. Adam, quite interesting how optimistic Donald Trump remains, and we'll have to wait and see how the two sides, who are not going to hold direct talks, they are in direct talks, currently taking place in Cairo, how they'll come out of this in the coming days.
Yeah, it's a rather curious setup. It's almost like notes being passed between them and that they don't meet after all. And worth saying that the person leading the Hamas delegation is somebody the Israelis tried to kill a month ago. So, but it doesn't really matter because you've got this optimism coming from the United States. And ultimately, you've got so many nations who want a deal. Hamas probably want a deal if they get it done on terms that are acceptable. I guess the Israelis would say the same thing. So there's an enormous amount of momentum, and geopolitically there's a lot of people trying to get behind this. So Benjamin Netanyahu spoke today to Vladimir Putin. We don't know what they said. It's clear that the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is becoming something of a kingmaker here. Trump was pretty eloquent in his support of Erdogan, saying that Hamas listen to him. So the moving parts are there. The Arab leaders, many of them want to get behind it. Ron Dermott, interestingly, the trusted lieutenant of Netanyahu, isn't involved in these talks yet, but he is expected to come in if progress is made. And I think what's apparent is that there is an overall framework based on Trump's 20-point plan that parties have agreed to. And in some of that is saying we will go along with these main bits. Some of it is saying we'll worry about these another time. The problem is, behind the optimism, some of these intricate questions are very, very hard about the future leadership of the Gaza Strip, The Palestinians want self-determination. They want to run their own land. The Israelis really don't want that to happen. Then it's down to the prisoner exchanges. I think that is resolvable. I think they will get there over the line if they need to. But also, where do you get the hostages? Where are they? Progress is being made, Yalda, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, Adam, we'll have to wait and see how this develops over the next few days and weeks. Thank you so much for all of your analysis, and we will be following all the developments here on the ground. As Adam said, progress is slowly being made, but there are a lot of roadblocks, a lot of hurdles, a lot of moving parts, and we will continue to follow all the developments. Anna, back to you in the studio.
Yalda, thank you. The funeral of one of the victims of the Manchester synagogue attack has taken place, with mourners remembering his bravery. Adrian Dalby is believed to have been shot dead by police while trying to stop Jihad al-Shami from getting into the building in Cromsall last Thursday. One of the men who came face-to-face with al-Shami has told Sky News he believed that everyone was going to die in the attack. Our North of England correspondent Katie Barnfield reports.
Holding back terror while fearing for his life. Ivor Rosenberg was a volunteer security guard at Heaton Park Synagogue on the day of the attack. He was among those barricading the door to stop Jihad al-Shami getting inside.
I heard this almighty bang, and I turned around and saw the car smashed into the wall of the gate. I ran straight into the office and dialed 999 and got the police, and I was screaming at them, "We're under attack, we're under attack." And I could hear him banging on the doors, trying to get in, threatening to kill everyone. It was terrifying.
Minutes earlier, he'd come face to face with the killer, telling him to leave the synagogue grounds as he was acting suspiciously.
He looked at me and said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "You're very brave inside the fence." And he walked away.
Everybody else, get back!
But he wasn't gone for long. Minutes later, Jihad al-Shami returned in his car, ramming the gates and trying to break inside with a knife. Holding the doors with Ivor was Adrian Dalby, one of the two men who lost their lives, killed accidentally by a police bullet that came through the door. At Adrian's funeral, crowds of mourners came to pay their respects to a man now remembered as a hero. Rabbi Daniel Walker from the Heaton Park Synagogue led the service.
He described Adrian Dalby as a kind and quiet man, saying he always sat in the same seat at the synagogue. He said, "When evil struck, we sought to secure the building. At that moment of need, that quiet man became a tremendously strong human. I watched him leap from his seat to close the door. He didn't run away from danger."
Ivor was among the guests, attending with his friend Lawrence Abramson, the synagogue's oldest member, who also witnessed the attack.
I was walking across Middleton Road to go to the shul, and I heard bang, 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 the gunshot sounds, and they've been with me all the time. I sleep and I can hear them.
Greater Manchester Police are still questioning 4 suspects in relation to the attack, while 2 have been released without charge.
We've very significantly increased both our visible and covert presence across the city region, particularly with a focus on our Jewish communities. They are now on the ground, highly visible and highly interventionist.
For those who watched the terror unfold, the memories of that day are still raw. Katie Barnfield, Sky News in Manchester.
A poll of Conservative Party members carried out exclusively for Sky News has found that half of members think Kemi Badenoch should not lead the party into the next election. The YouGov poll shows that the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, is the favourite among Tory members to replace her. Our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, reports now from the Conservative Party conference in Manchester.
A party that loves its heroines. Strong, commanding, resolute. But Margaret Thatcher, not Kemi Badenoch, is the leader on a pedestal in Manchester this week.
Why do you think Tory members don't want to take into the next election?
So I'm getting into this JCB tractor and then I'll take it into the next one.
A new exclusive poll of Tory members for Sky News reveals 50% want Kemi Badenoch gone before the next election. It also found, in a head-to-head, 39% would pick her as leader, but 46% would back one-time contender Robert Jenrick, and just 14% expect the Tories to win a majority next time around. But what should the party do about the threat from reform?
I want the Tory party to be once again the natural home for all the small C Conservatives out there in the country.
And I believe
you
would never support a pact of any sort.
Look, that is not our priority. That's not a priority.
He's in tune with the members. Our poll found a 2-to-1 margin backing a Tory reform deal. The current leadership more focused on policy for now, including big cuts to welfare, the civil service and net zero.
The savings I am setting out today would reduce the size of government by almost £50 billion.
For those actually here in the hall, giveaways too.
Today, I can announce that as a direct result of getting public spending under control, a future Conservative government will completely abolish business rates for shops and pubs on our high streets. End of! To younger people, I say, we will get debt off your back. We can and we will.
To turn things around, the Tories need to get heard. And the party promised a policy-rich speech from the Shadow Chancellor, with spending as well as big cuts. But the huge number of empty seats tell their own story.
Problems on multiple fronts can feel like whack-a-mole. They want to change the script and hit the other parties where it hurts. Sam Coates, Sky News, Manchester.
Well, the Shadow Environment Secretary, Victoria Atkins, has been speaking to our political editor, Beth Rigby, on the Electoral Dysfunction podcast about Kemi Badenoch. She says the Tory leader has shown resilience and character in her first year in charge.
I think, actually, Kemi doesn't have enough confidence in her... She doesn't have enough confidence in herself, in that I know that she has been... really wanting to listen and absorb this year, and I think this conference we're seeing her having that confidence. Having been in that role for a while now, she's got that confidence and she is going with her instinct, and I think that's really exciting. I think she has been very keen to ensure that we are listening, I agree with her, it was right to do that. I know it's taken a bit of a, arguably we've taken a bit of a political knock with it, but she was right to listen and to absorb, frankly, some of the criticism coming from her, from all directions, our opponents and so on.
And do scan the QR code at the side on your screen now for more from Electoral Dysfunction and our political editor, Beth Rigby. Now, the French Prime Minister has quit less than a month after taking up the role. Sébastien Lecornu is the fifth Prime Minister to leave the job in less than 2 years. His resignation, which came just hours after he'd appointed his cabinet, adds to the pressure on the President Emmanuel Macron. But let's go live to Paris and our Europe correspondent, Alistair Bunkle. And Macron, Alistair, has given Lecornu 2 more days to have one last go. But realistically, are we looking at a president here unable to finish his term?
Well, we're certainly looking at a president who is unable to find a prime minister to unblock a mess, really, of his own making, because you can date this back to 2024, when Emmanuel Macron called snap elections in the National Assembly. Those elections did not return the result he wanted. It ended up with him losing a lot of seats for his own party, and there's been a hung parliament ever since, and that has meant that there's been disagreement and an inability for the government to find a unified approach, particularly when it comes to passing a budget, a much-needed budget, because the economy is in a right old mess here. And so multiple prime ministers have come and gone. Sébastien Lecornu was appointed only 26 days ago, and he last night announced on Twitter that he had formed a new government. And then this morning, completely out of the blue, said that he had tendered his resignation and it had been accepted. Now, I think that is because the government that he appointed wasn't all that new. It was all the same faces, really, shuffling them around in different ministerial jobs. And ultimately, the government turned on him and he went to the Élysée Palace and handed his resignation in to Emmanuel Macron. Now, Macron this afternoon has kind of slightly turned around and said, we'll give you 48 hours to try and see whether you can in any way resolve this, salvage something from the ashes of this fledgling government and bring stability back to France. There's no guarantee Le Cornu can do that, and if he doesn't do that, then it leaves Macron, frankly, in a real bind. Does he resign himself? He said he won't do that. Does he try and appoint another prime minister when all the previous ones over the last year or two have failed? Or does he call new National Assembly elections and risk his own party being battered in those and seeing the far-right Marine Le Pen National Rally doing extremely well? To be frank, he has choices, but none of them are good ones.
Interesting times indeed. Alistair, live for us there in Paris. Thank you. Well, now to Afghanistan, which is facing an unprecedented crisis of hunger. The United Nations says more than 4.7 million women and children require urgent treatment for malnutrition, while 90% of children are in food poverty. Sky News has been to the northeast of Afghanistan, where a growing number of babies are dying. A warning that this report from our Asia correspondent, Cordelia Lynch, contains distressing images.
A cacophony of cries. Babies clinging on to life. In Badakhshan's provincial hospital, you can see, feel, hear the distress. Mothers exhausted, holding vigil by beds. These are the children of Afghanistan, facing hunger on a scale the country has never seen before.
This one is complicated with severe acute malnutrition with pneumonia.
Faisal is 12 months old. He's severely malnourished. His mother has already lost 3 children to malnutrition.
I'm worried about him and what might come next. I have already lost 3 of my children. My first daughter died at 8 years old. 2 more of my children passed away when they were 2.5.
The ward is full of lost-looking eyes, dimmed with hunger. Bodies wrestling. Families hanging on to hope.
There are currently 20 babies on this ward, and a new one arrives every day. 2 have turned up just in the time that we've been here, and some won't survive. In the last 3 months, roughly 1 baby has died every 3 days here.
There's been a huge cut in foreign aid, severe droughts, and now the Taliban government has restricted women's right to work and earn money.
Yes, they are to blame. Every girl had her own dreams. I wanted to be a doctor. I took my responsibility for my children seriously, and I wanted to support my husband too.
But the Taliban say the country is reeling from decades of conflict.
Do you accept, though, if more women could work and earn money, they'd find it a lot easier to feed their babies?
First of all, Afghanistan's social structure is such that most family economic responsibilities traditionally rest with men. A 5-year plan has already been announced to tackle malnutrition, unemployment and other pressing social issues, with concrete solutions being implemented across multiple sectors.
There are urgent needs here, but it's already too late for some. Nasrullah and Jamila have just welcomed twins, but they're on their way to the grave of their baby Shukriya, who died just a month ago.
She was our child. We loved her. I will never forget her, so long as I am alive. We really tried. We went to the doctor for checkups, for ultrasound, for blood works. We tried our very best, but none of it could save her.
Deaths aren't documented in a lot of these communities, but locals tell us more and more children are dying because of malnutrition. A silent, searing loss that is spreading. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Badakhshan in Afghanistan.
Ukraine's military says it struck one of Russia's main explosives factories, as well as an oil terminal in Russian-occupied Crimea. Ukrainian officials say the attacks were carried out as part of a strategy to reduce Russia's offensive potential, as well as its missile and bomb capabilities. The strikes came after at least 5 people were reported dead in a large-scale Russian missile and drone attack on Ukraine over the weekend. A man has been arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life after a fire at a mosque in East Sussex on Saturday night. Nobody was injured in the incident in Peacehaven. Police say they are treating it as a hate crime. The US Supreme Court has denied Ghislaine Maxwell's request to appeal against her sex trafficking conviction. The former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her role in luring teenage girls to be abused. Tonight, President Trump was asked if he would consider a pardon for Maxwell. He said he would have to speak to the Department of Justice. The former England captain and Rugby World Cup winner Lewis Moody says he is determined to embrace life and focus on staying positive after revealing that he's been diagnosed with motor neurone disease. His former England teammate Will Greenwood told Sky News that everyone holds him in the highest regard.
We're rugby blokes and we don't say it, but, you know, we love Lewis. We absolutely love him to his core. And he created a really special bond with everyone he played with and alongside. And there's very few who can do that.
The Queen has led tributes to the best-selling author Dame Jilly Cooper, who has died at the age of 88 after a fall. During her 50-year career, Jilly Cooper sold 11 million copies of her blockbuster books, which included Riders, Rivals and Polo. Queen Camilla said she'd been saddened to hear of Jilly Cooper's death, and she hoped her hereafter would be filled with impossibly handsome men and devoted dogs. In 1993, Jilly Cooper explained how she wrote her books.
Is it very hard work writing a book?
Yes. I mean, no, yes, yes, it is, because I'm very slow and I'm not very bright, and I have to do lots of drafts of everything. And so it is. I mean, some people write much quicker than I do. I write very slowly. Coming here about 10, I walk the dogs and I come in here, and I have this wonderful system here, which is each chapter. I've mapped my book up for, so every time I have a thought about anything or anybody says something funny, I drop it into the chapter where it might fit in. But I work in a very muddled way, and I write on backs of bus tickets and everything.
She was extraordinary. She was the most fun and, as you say, the most generous and considerate. She loved life. She thrilled at everything that was happening to her in her later years. She couldn't believe it. And she was so unafraid to have fun and to lean into that and really enjoy what was good about life. And she was never one to dwell on the bad. And she would hate to actually have caused any sadness with her passing. But the grief is real, and the grief is obviously particularly real for her wonderful children, Felix and Emily, who have lost not only the icon, but the woman who raised them and who they loved dearly. She will just leave such a huge hole in all of our hearts.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we will take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, joined by the journalist and author Ian Dunt and the former special advisor Salma Shah. Welcome to both of you. Among the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the Eye, its headline, UK Gaza protests going ahead today on the anniversary of October the 7th massacre, a Tuesday paper, of course. Back with that in just a moment.